In this video, we're going to take a look at how we can further expand our work with applications of real numbers. And now we're going to take a look at problems that have two steps in them as opposed to just one step. So in our last session, we looked at questions where there was just one thing we needed to do to solve. Now we're going to take a look at what happens when there are two different steps in our process to get down to that answer. So in our first question, we have Greg here, and he has his own YouTube cooking channel. Before he films a video about making the perfect pound cake, he prepares his ingredients. Now we know that his recipe calls for 2½ cups of sugar for the cake and an additional 1 1/4 cups of sugar for the vanilla glaze. So we have two different amounts of sugar we're dealing with. And we want to know how many 1/4 cup scoops of sugar does he need. So first we need to figure out the total amount of sugar, which is going to be an addition question. Then we need to figure out how many scoops, and that is going to be, I forgot an N there, division, because we want to know how many times does 1/4 go into that total. So first we're going to find the total. So I'm going to add my two numbers together here. So we're going to have 2½ plus 1 1/4, and I'm just going to come over to my calculator. I'm going to clear out whatever I had here, and I'm going to add those together. So 2 space 1/2, ignore that bell, and we're going to add 1 space 1/4. And now we can see that that's 3.75. So we have 3.75 cups total, and now we want to figure out how many scoops are we going to need. So we are going to go ahead and do that 3.75 divided by 1/4 to figure out how many of those 1/4 scoops we have. So we can go to a new line here. We'll type 3.75 divided by 1/4. And we'll see there that we have an answer of 15. So we would need 15 scoops. We always want to make sure that we include a unit with our answer. All right, for our next one, we have Ben, who wants to try a new honey glazed salmon recipe. We got lots of food here. Hopefully you're not too hungry. And he starts with 1 2/3 cups of honey, and he uses 1/5 of it to make the glaze. We want to know how much honey does Ben have left. So again, we have two parts here. We have the amount that he's using, and then we have to figure out how much is left in the jar. So he starts with 1 2/3 and he uses 1/5 of that. So the first part is going to be how much does he use? And that is going to be a multiplication question because we're going to multiply that 1/5 by that 1 2/3. And then we want to know how much is left. And to figure out how much is left, we take our beginning amount and we subtract the amount that we used to figure out what's left over. So we're going to use subtraction there. So first, how much did he use? Well, we used 1/5 of 1 2/3. So that's going to be a multiplication question here. So I'm going to clear out my calculator, and we are going to do 1/5 times, going to click out there, 1 2/3. So that is going to be 0.33333 repeating, which I know is 1/3. And we're going to keep that as the fraction here to avoid any rounding errors. So we're going to keep that as 1/3 that he has used. Now we want to figure out how much is left. So we're going to take the 1 2/3 that we started with, and we are going to subtract the 1/3 that we used. And that is going to give us how much is left. So some of you are probably able to see what that answer would be without using the calculator, but we can always use it to check. So we have 1 2/3, and we are going to subtract 1/3. We get 1.333 repeating, which if you want to include that decimal as your answer, that's fine. But we should know that that is 1 1/3. So we're going to have 1 1/3 cups left in the jar. So again, these are a little trickier because they have more steps, but the steps themselves aren't too bad. Okay, for our last one here, we have a farmer's market that sells fruits with the prices listed in our table here. We want to know what is the total of 2.25 pounds of grapes and 3 3/4 pounds of cherries. So here we need to find the grape cost, we need to find the cherry cost, and we need to add them together. That will give us our total. And to find the individual costs, we're just going to multiply. So we're going to start with the grapes here. I know that grapes are $2.99 per pound. So I'm going to do $2.99 times the amount of grapes. So times that 2.25 pounds of grapes. So we come over here, $2.99 times $2 or 2.25 pounds. And we get 6.7275. Now, when we work with money, remember, it's important to remember that we only want 2 digits after the decimal place. So we go ahead and round. We can see that we have a 7 at the end here. That means this is closer to 73 than to 72. So we're going to pay $6.73 for the grapes. Now we're going to do the same thing, but for the cherries. So my cherries cost $4.25 a pound. So I'm going to do 4.25 times my amount of cherries, 3 3/4. And when I come back over to my calculator here, we have 4.25 times 3 3/4. Again, we get a number we're going to have to round. We have 15.9375. Again, remember with money, we only want 1 digit after the decimal point. So we look at those 2. And this digit here, we have 7 again. So again, we're closer to 94 than we are to 93. So we're going to pay $15.94 for the cherries. If I want to find my total cost, that means I'm going to add these 2 individual costs together. So we can go to a new line here. We're going to add our $6.73 for the grapes to our $15.94 for the cherries. And that is going to give me a total of $22.67.